What a world he was born into. A world of empire, of military occupation, of vast inequality between the fabulously wealthy and everyone else. Luke says so right at the beginning of the story. 2,000 years ago, the Roman Empire occupied the land that is now Israel and Palestine. A decree goes out from Emperor Augustus that all the world should be registered, and everyone has to go to their own family's hometown to do it. This would be a logistical nightmare in 2023 with jet planes and GPS. Back then, we can only imagine the hassle and confusion. Roads choked with travelers, braying donkeys, spitting camels, families shouting to find lost children, streams overwhelmed with people getting water, latrines choked with filth. All so the richest man in the world, far away in Rome, can know exactly how much tax to squeeze out of the poorest people of his empire. Traveling so far is a ridiculous idea for a woman who's 9 months pregnant. She should be at home with her feet up and a midwife on call. But Mary and Joseph don't have a choice. They could try to stay home, but Roman soldiers would just show up and force them to go, and they'd probably be beaten up or worse. Better to comply, at least for now. Hoist Mary up on that donkey's back and pray her water doesn't break until they travel to Bethlehem. And when Mary and Joseph do get there, the only inn is so full of travelers crammed into the large shared room that Joseph doesn't even ask Mary about staying there. No way she'll want to give birth with dozens of people looking on, complaining about the noise of her labor and offering parenting advice. Joseph can't find a private room for all the money in Emperor Augustus's treasury, even if he had any money, which he doesn't. The best labor and delivery ward a poor family can find in occupied Bethlehem is a stable. For all the nervousness and excitement Joseph and Mary feel about the baby's birth, they must feel a little bit hopeless too. This child is the Son of God. He is God's expansive wisdom and creative energy compacted into human flesh. But what kind of life can they give him? Scraping by, making do, sending most of what you earn off to Rome, trying not to attract the soldiers' attention. That's what Mary and Joseph know. That's how they will have to bring up this child. Yet they also know, both of them, that God chose them, a poor couple in an occupied land, to raise the Son of God. And God chose their people, a tiny religious minority in a remote corner of a vast empire, to bring about the salvation of all humankind. What a world children today are born into. A world of war, of ecological catastrophe, of vast inequality between the fabulously wealthy and everyone else. There is no peace in the land of Jesus' birth tonight, not in Israel or Palestine or Ukraine or so many other places on this earth. I cannot think of baby Jesus lying safely in his manger without remembering the babies born among the rubble of Gaza, without even a stable for shelter. Our planet itself, this precious, pristine gift that God gave us with everything we would ever need, is suffering from human carelessness and greed. It should not be 60 degrees in central Ohio on Christmas Day, yet this is only a preview of warm winters to come. And as in Jesus' time, far too many have nothing at all, while a small few have far more than they could possibly use. It is a courageous thing to bring a child into the world in 2023, knowing what they will inherit and how different their lives will have to be from their parents. Poet Denise Levertov invites us to dwell in the ugliness of the world for a moment this night. It It's easy to use the cuteness of the newborn Jesus to distract ourselves from the brokenness that surrounds us. But instead, Levertov asks us to look squarely at humankind's vast capacity for violence and selfishness, including our own violence and selfishness. It's in every one of us. This is part of being human. Because for Levertov, the ugliness of the world reveals the magnitude of God's love for us in sending Jesus to live with us as one of us. She writes On the Mystery of the Incarnation, "It's when we face for a moment the worst our kind can do and shudder to know the taint in our own selves that awe cracks the mind's shell and enters the heart. Not to a flower, not to a dolphin, to no innocent form, but to this creature vainly sure it and no other is God-like. God, out of compassion for our ugly failure to evolve, entrusts as guest, as brother, the Word." If the world had been as perfect 2,000 years ago as it was at the dawn of time, if there had been no empire, no occupation, no inequality, humanity would have looked around at our beautiful world and we would have known that God loved us. The proof would be in everything we saw and tasted and smelled. We might even have believed we deserved God's love. And if the world had been perfect 2,000 years ago, we would never realize the depth of God's love for us. God chose to be born into a world marked by ugliness because only by joining us in the most broken parts of our human life can God reveal how much God loves us. We cannot possibly be worthy of such a gift. God knows that, and God chooses to join us in the muck of our lives out of deep, abiding love, a love that wants to share our lives and be with us in all our human messiness. And that is why Christmas comes each year, why each year Jesus is born anew among us. Because God does not give up on us. God's love for us is deep and abiding and persistent. Perhaps someday humanity will figure it out. We will love God with our whole being and love our neighbors as ourselves. We will beat our swords into plowshares. We will make God's kingdom of justice and peace and wholeness real on earth as it is in heaven. Until then, Jesus comes each year to embody God's love, to show us how to live, to be with us in solidarity as we struggle and suffer and try to change this messed up world. Christmas is God's promise that God loves us as we are, where we are. And God loves us too much to leave us on our own. So awe cracks the mind's shell and enters the heart. And we greet the newborn Christ with wonder. To us a child is born. To us. To us in our selfishness and violence. To us in our carelessness and greed. To us, God entrusts God's very self as guest, as brother. And Jesus is born anew to us. To us.